Paul said, my name is Sonia Beekman. I'm here representing APL2000, and I'm very pleased to be here in the UK and participating in this conference with all of you. Some of you know me, some of you don't, but it seems that many of you here may not be that familiar with APL2000 as a company, who we are and what the products are that we have available and what we're doing with APL in the future. So I kind of have two portions to my presentation. I'm first going to try and familiarize you a little bit with us and who we are as a company and products, and then I will be doing a demonstration on Visual APL to show you what it would look like to be programming with that software and be in the Visual Studio environment. And then I'll take questions at the end. I'll try and stand here so I don't forget anything. APL2000 is a full-service software company. So we develop and market APL language products for Windows, for .NET, Unix, and Linux operating systems. And we also provide lots of consulting in all areas from design to development, implementation. We help with customized enhancements, deployment, anything that our customers might need. So we're basically one-stop shop. Anything you need to take care of your APL needs, we can do for you. Our customers span a broad spectrum of industries, both in the U.S. and abroad, and particularly in finance and insurance, healthcare, aerospace, engineering, health benefits, basically a broad gamut of customers. We're also very supportive of education. Actually, Rita and I have talked about this in many conferences that we attend together, that we believe very strongly in the importance of trying to get APL taught in universities. Because in terms of commercial or industries, sometimes people will say, well, we're kind of a little leery about getting involved with APL because where am I going to find APL programmers? So the idea is if we could be putting out new APL programmers from universities today, I think that would help the acceptance in industry. So APL2000 has a program that we provide free software to universities that are teaching APL for credit classes. And we'll provide that for them. We set it up in their computer labs and get them going with it. This is a list of the products that APL2000 has available, and I will kind of briefly touch on each of them. There's Win, Visual APL, we have APL Web Services, we have Unix, a Linux product, we have database interface tools, we have APL plus Win, Pro, QPlot, and Spread that we also sell. APL plus Win. This is probably the one that most of you have heard of and know. This is our core product. It is the development environment for Microsoft Win32. And just some of the highlights of it, it is obviously a standalone application. It's full-featured with the interactive immediate mode session that you're all familiar with, working with APL. The big thing is that our runtime applications may be distributed royalty-free to our users, so once you purchase the license, you can distribute that at no additional cost to your end users. We have support for colossal component files, Win32 API, including forms and controls, so that is available. Another big thing is that it includes the COM interface to control applications like Excel from APL plus Win, and then vice versa, APL from Excel. It includes comprehensive TCP and IP support for sockets. And we also have conversion tools for Dyalog, for IBM APL, from other APL should you decide to want to try and move code or have a need to move code around. And it includes full documentation and APL topology. Okay, the way we sell APL plus Win is on a subscription model. Basically, we have all the information on the website, and also you received in your packet a booklet that lists all of our products and the features of those products and the pricing and how it's sold. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on the pricing and all that, but I do want to tell you that the customers we had a good reception to the subscription program, because rather than the way we used to sell APL plus Win, where you purchased a license and then you would wait until the next edition came out and then you would purchase another license at that point, the way we sell it for the past 5 years, I'd say, on the subscription model is that it includes now the enhancements and the new releases that come out during your agreement term period. And we've been having about quarterly releases. Actually, the last release is today. Time of the conference, we have a release that came out just today. And so if you have a subscription, there's no additional cost. There's no longer a waiting for when is the next release coming out. As development occurs, you would get that. And APL Plus Win subscriptions also include net access from Wiscas Consulting. I don't know if you know Eric Wiscas. He's the developer that created this product. We include it with APL Plus Win. And this is a convenient tool that will prepare C# DLLs to be used by APL Plus Win programmers. So it gives you a chance to also work in .NET from APL Plus Win. Okay, these are also just some things that are included with all of our APL Plus Win subscriptions. I mentioned the new releases. Everybody gets email-based technical support. And then we have a tier structure. In other words, you would purchase the appropriate subscription for the number of licenses you need. And the higher the level of support as well. So everyone gets email support, but people also get coupons for telephone support, for remote consulting, all kinds of other additional benefits. And the other big thing is access to the APL developer network. We get a lot of activity here. This is a kind of a community where we put all of our users together, and they have access to post questions, comments. There's an area there that you can put up workspaces and ask questions. So a lot of people find that helpful because other than just receiving answers from our technical support, you're also getting answers from other APLers in the community. And this is the forum that I just talked about. This is the web address for the forum. And all this is on the CD and also on the printed information that you have. Okay, and I talked about also the telephone support and enterprise. Enterprise coupons are rather interesting because they can be redeemed for what we call remote consulting. That would be a higher level than what would be considered technical support. Our consultant doesn't actually come on site with you, but if it can be worked out over the phone, you have direct access to work with the developers. This is just, again, I'm not going to go into the details, but it just shows that we have levels from single user licenses all the way to the tier 1, which would be a site license for the company with unlimited usage. Okay, now Visual APL, some of you may or may not have heard about this product. It's one of our newer entries into the marketplace. Visual APL is an application software development environment for the .NET framework. And again, you have the installer on those CDs available. We've been hearing a lot this morning, actually, from Morton and from Simon and from everyone about how we want to bring APL to interact with other tools that are available in the marketplace. And this is the perfect product to do that because it is fully integrated with Visual Studio. It now makes APL appear of all other .NET languages. So as I will demonstrate when I show a project later, you could be working side by side with a C# developer. Part of the project could be done in C#, part of the project could be done in APL, part of the project could be done in VB.NET. It's all one. Okay, so that's what this product does. It produces fully managed .NET assemblies, interoperates with any of the other .NET languages, and it can be incorporated into Visual Studio as part of the solution, again, with any of the other number of projects that could be part of an entire solution. And again, with the Visual APL product, there are no royalty fees for runtime distribution to your end users. So once you purchase this license and developed an application, you're free to distribute that with the runtime license. Some of the features of Visual APL. It includes an interactive immediate mode CL Explorer session. I'm going to demonstrate this to you, but this is new to Visual Studio, which does not really have an immediate mode session. So what we have done is taken the workspace, the work session from APL, and kind of given you that type of an environment to use with Visual Studio. Visual APL functions can be exposed as ActiveX, so they can be used by APL Plus Win and others. The APL and C# syntax can both be used in the Visual APL project. And I will demonstrate that to you also. I mean, to the extent that one line of code could be written in APL and the next line could be written in C#. It does take advantage of the multi-threading and multi-processor capabilities. Again, I think one of the other speakers was talking about not needing to reinvent the wheel. I think the gentleman who spoke about R may have said that. That's very apropos to this product, because our philosophy is that if Microsoft has developed it and it's available in Visual Studio, then we don't necessarily need to go and redevelop it to make it available in APL plus Win. By fully integrating our APL now with Visual Studio, everything that's available in Visual Studio is available to you. Again, it includes the documentation and all the fonts and everything that's typography. And there is a special part of our forum on the APL website dedicated to Visual APL. And there is a plethora of information on there now. I encourage you to go to this forum. It's available for anyone. And we have much documentation there now on how to use the product. There are tutorials, there are demonstrations, and if you're at all interested, I would encourage you to check it out. Managed code. I haven't heard that much mentions about that yet, but we have many clients that have started bringing up requests and things about managed code. And people have, someone asked me at dinner yesterday, what is managed code? So this is just a very basic explanation. There's more information on our forum. There's plenty of information on the web. But basically, managed code is a way of providing an increased level of security with the code with the applications that you send your end users. And there's three main points to know about that. It happens because of virtualization of memory. Your application is running on a virtual machine on the actual machine, so it kind of protects your hard drive from bringing in viruses and other type of things. Also, when you send an application in managed code, you have to send along a manifest that lists the requirements of that application. And so the user on their side also can control what they're permitting to come in. So again, more level of security that when somebody gets a managed code application, they will see the manifest first and say this is what they're going to need on the machine to run this, and then they can decide, do I want to allow this or not. So it basically revolves around security. And the reason it's up here is because Visual APL, again, produces fully managed code. And so some of our clients who had APL applications and now have a need from their end users, whether it's government or there's large hospitals that are requiring this, or saying that we can no longer run code on our machine that's not managed, and they have to convert their APL applications to managed applications. This would be a tool that could be used. Visual APL targets 32 and 64-bit hardware operating systems without any modification, basically because it exports the CLR, or the Microsoft Common Language Runtime, and that's optimized for whatever hardware you're using. So if you're using 32-bit, it would be 32-bit. If you're using 64-bit, it would take advantage of the 64-bit. And again, the free evaluation copy. If you lose your CD or something happens or whatever, it's also available to download at the site here, and that address is in the booklet, the brochure that you have. This is the pricing on Visual APL. It's actually quite simplified from when we first released the product. Individual licenses basically are $2,500 a year. That includes the royalty-free runtime. And the enterprise is basically for an unlimited number of licenses. That's the 15. Okay, I just wanted to briefly mention, I had talked about APL plus Win now coming with Lascas's net access that allows the APL plus Win people to dabble in .NET. How is that different? When would that be appropriate, or when would you actually want Visual APL? And this, I think, describes it kind of in a nutshell. Net access allows APL plus Win users to access .NET DLLs by encapsulating the DLL and making it available as an ActiveX. So if you use net access with APL plus Win, your end product is still APL plus Win. Whereas with Visual APL, since it's fully integrated with Visual Studio, if you create an assembly with Visual APL, it's going to be fully managed CLR code. The first one is not managed code. The second one is managed code. Okay, we also have an APL Web Services product, and basically what this does is it allows you to web enable your APL application. And there's lots of reasons that people find this beneficial means of deployment for their product. Just on a basic level, if you have your application being distributed on a web services and you make changes or upgrades or do different things to your product, you only really have to change it in that one location, and everybody else is using it and accessing it, through the web. The changes, they will have the updated version. I just want to share a couple of examples of customers that are using web services in ways that you may not think about. I mean, obviously, if you have an application, it's just a way to get it to your end user. But we have a gentleman who's an avid windsurfer, okay, and he set up a wind meter near a body of water that he likes to windsurf. And what he does is his web services now, from anywhere he travels a lot internationally, he monitors the weather, the wind, at the area that he likes to windsurf, and when he sees that it's prime time, he gets on a bike and goes back and windsurfs, believe it or not. But from a more practical perspective, there were several people that are using web services to kind of open up some of their records of their own business to their end users. I'll explain that in a minute. And what that does is it decreases their resources that they need to provide for customer service. For example, we have two applications that consultants have developed with our web services, where the end users could log on to the system and see what has been done on their account. In other words, their interaction with the company, rather than having to call customer service and say, what have you done? There's one particular company that's involved with taxes for their end users. And so rather than the end users having to constantly call and say, have you done anything? Have you spoken to the adjuster? They could log on to the system themselves through the internet now and see, what has happened for them. Also, it supports the HTTP protocols, including binary serialization. It's fully scalable. Get an active log of the activity. These are still benefits of web services. This is also something of interest, that the program controlled stateless and stateful processing of client requests. That has to do with the ports. I don't know whether you're familiar with this, but whether when the information comes in, whether the port closes off, and you can still get other information coming in, or whether it's open and continues to. It depends on the application, obviously, that you're doing. Again, it includes the documentation, and we also have a community forum for web services posting questions. Web services does require APL plus Win to run, but since there is a free runtime, if you're running the application with the runtime interpreter, there would be no additional cost. If you want, we have customers that prefer to run the development license on the web server so they could go in and log in and make the actual changes there. That would require an additional license. And this is just the pricing. There's a lot of information here, but basically what you need to know is the different levels. And the application server is the basic web services. In the next column, the commerce server is the one that provides support for the extra security sockets. Okay, we also have APL plus Unix and APL plus Linux. Self-explanatory, that basically are products for these platforms. And again, this is very similar to the highlights of the features in the APL plus Win product. We do have support for colossal component files with our Unix and Linux products. Again, documentation. And this is the pricing for the individual license. We also have multi-user licenses. And this is just briefly some other products that APL2000 also has available to sell. Pro, which is the access via DVC from APL plus Win, something like that. QPlot and Spread. APL2000 also offers APL database interface tools. We have them available for MS SQL Server, for Oracle, and for IBM DB2. And they are either, you can use them if you're working in .NET, or if you're not working in .NET, but you're working in a platform that is ActiveX aware, you can use it via ActiveX. These are the costs for the database tools. So let's just look a little bit towards the future, what APL2000 is looking to do going ahead, and then I'll move into the demo. APL2000 is committed to enhancing our existing products and services. I just want to be clear about that because I hear often, because we have introduced a new product and we are looking, to Visual APL as something for the .NET environment. I just want to make sure that it's very clear to everyone that Visual APL is in no way designed to replace APL plus Win. APL plus Win is still our core product, and we are committed to providing new releases and services for that product. As I said, we do have 4 releases a year on that product, so we are committed to continuing with that product, as well as moving ahead with Visual APL and web services and any other products that we may come out with and develop and move into it. Basically, we're also going to continue providing services to help people transition. If you are interested in Visual APL, whether you are a current APL customer or not, whether this might be the first product you might be interested in from APL2000, we have a team that is willing to help provide the transitioning. We have conversion tools, again, for other APL code to help bring that into Visual APL. So we'll be working with those customers as well. Mentioned that APL2000 will continue to incorporate best-of-class utilities into our products when appropriate. And an example of that would be net access. That was not something that we necessarily developed at APL2000, but we work with partners, with consultants, with other developers, and we also see what's available in the marketplace, and we felt that that would be a good addition to our product, and we would be looking for things like that in the future as well. We're also committed to expanding our programmer base by increasing exposure to our products. And one of the ways also is the education program, trying to get it into the schools. But we also meet with other developer groups, and especially with the Visual APL product, and just in general talking about merging or working collectively with other languages. We do go and talk to other developer groups or groups of people working on projects that we think APL might be of interest to kind of broaden and make people aware. I mean, I'm sure that all the vendors here would like to get to the point that if you were talking to a developer of any language and you talked about APL, they would know what you're talking about. We're not quite there yet, but we hope to get there someday. And our goal is to develop software that brings the greatest advantage to developers that use APL2000 products. I mean, there are multiple vendors. We understand that you have choice in your APL product, but we're committed to providing the best services we can to the APL customers. Here's some additional links. I talked about this. The first one is just our APL2000 website, for the Visual APL forum, for the web services forum. Again, this is on your CD and in the booklet. And this is our contact information here. I'd love to hear from any of you, whether you're a customer or not a customer. If you have a comment, suggestion, question, you read things on the forum that you may not understand, send us an email. Love to hear you. Okay, now I'm going to switch gears and go into the demo of the Visual APL product. You don't want to see my glasses? Where should I put that? Okay, just a couple of slides before we go into the actual demo. Okay, so this demonstration that I'm going to do here is basically intended to give a sense, like I said, of how a Visual APL application would look. Many of you, well actually I'm curious, how many of you use Visual Studio? How many people here are familiar with the Visual Studio environment? A couple. Actually, I should have asked this before here. Does anyone here have need for managed code? Is that something that's come up in your applications or not really? Not much. Okay. I also want to mention that a complete set of instructions for the demo that I'm going to be showing is also included on the Visual APL forum. So that's actually what's in this book here. But if you go to the forum and you'll see where the link is for this application, you can recreate it with the installer that you were given, step by step, with screenshots, and follow through and actually create the application yourself. Okay, so the first thing you need to look at a little bit is the system architecture. And so what we're going to do is divide the application into modules. There'll be the GUI, the business rules or the calculations, and the data. Once you know that these are the three modules that are going to make up this project, you need to look at the implementation decisions that need to be made. Now, we believe that the programming language should be used for its strength, that it's not a one-size-fits-all. We don't believe that everything needs to be done in APL, although it can be, and that's how you choose, but we feel that you should be looking at all the tools that are out there and choosing the one that's most appropriate for what you're trying to do. Okay, so in our example here, for the GUI interface part, we have chosen to use C# WPF because it is the most recent generation of GUI development tools in Visual Studio 2008. You could have chosen to use any other form of GUI. You could have done it in the previous version, Windows Forms. You could use, Quant WI forms, HTML, PDF forms, anything. For the business rules and calculations, this is where we feel that, APL has its greatest strength. Okay, so we used Visual APL for the language that was chosen for the business rules, but you could choose any other .NET language for this portion as well. And the data in this example, we used a Microsoft Excel workbook because it was readily provided by the Society of Actuaries. We were looking at mortality tables, so rather than recreate a table, we used one from them that's available. But you could use, obviously, any other data tables or any other means that you store your data, whether it's SQL Server, IBM DB2, Oracle, Access, any other database. Okay, so in this project, we're going to look at the end-user description. What is it that we're trying to do in this project? And for this project, we're looking to provide a system to calculate the curtailed expectation of life for an individual based on their current age and a selected mortality table. Okay, so let's now look at the actual application. I'm going to bring up Visual Studio. Okay, the reason I did this, I'm showing you that I was just going to debug this to show you what the actual GUI form looks like and what the end user would be seeing. But the reason we left this up here, you'll see it says activate, update your license, those two boxes there. When you install the installer that we gave you for Visual APL, it does have a 30-day trial period. So this is exactly what you would see. You could click this and disregard it. It will come up until you have 30 days from your first debugging to use this sample. If you purchase the product and you get a key that you would register here, then this wouldn't come up and you wouldn't see it. But I thought it was a good idea to show it so that when you install it and it comes up, you'll be prepared. You know that this is what you see, and actually you have to click on it twice to Okay, so this is the actual application. You can see here that you have the title up here, curtailed expectation of life. There are the group of mortality tables that I was telling you that you could choose from. You enter the age. So let's just say, for example, there's a lot of men here. Let's say we put in the table from 2000 for a male who's 50 years old, and we click on curtailed expectation of life, and it tells you here that that male would be expected, based on these tables, to live 30.29 more years. Just to show how this works, kind of interesting, if you clicked on the one from 1868 for a man the same age, the expectation would have only been 20 years. So So that's basically what the application itself looks like. Now let's look at the code behind it and how it was developed. Oh, there was something else I wanted to point out here. Okay, I also wanted to point out that we put a scroll viewer in here. So it's very easy. I had showed this before to scale this to size. And I'm going to show you the code that did that. It's actually very simple in C#. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at is the window1.xaml, which is the tab up here. And what this is this is the default XAML that describes the GUI that's rendered in the picture here. Now, I have a small screen, so it's a little hard. I'm going to have to keep moving around these lines so that you can see this whole thing. But the XAML is the code on the bottom that renders the GUI that's on the top. And if I go the other way so you can see more code, you can see between the window here and windows down on the bottom, there's really not a whole lot of code. This is the entire code for the GUI. And in terms of that scroll viewer that I showed you, the entire grid, here's where the scroll viewer is. This is the line of code here. Down to here, that was what was involved in creating that scroll viewer. Also, I just wanted to point out that there's not a whole lot of typing that really has to go on with entering the code here, because what happens is that Microsoft's implementation of the auto-completion, the IntelliSense, kicks in, and I'll show you that. Let's say we wanted to add something else in here. As soon as I went to the place and put a space in, the IntelliSense would come up and already give me the choices, whatever it is I wanted to do. I would just click on it and add it in. So there was very little typing to put this in, just 1 or 2 letters, and then you select what it is that you want. Okay, let's move to the Windows 1 XAML CS. And what this window is this is the C# code that's behind the XAML file that I just showed you. And what this does is it connects the GUI to the business rules. Okay? And the Visual Studio 2008 automatically creates the event handler function in the code behind this XAML.cs. Okay, so let me show you some examples here. If you look at this section of code here, the Windows_activated, what this means is that when the GUI is activated, the Visual APL data tier would serve up the information to be displayed in the GUI. Those were the mortality tables that came in there. When you activate the GUI, then the list box that contains those mortality tables are actually bound to the Visual APL. I'll show you that, the Visual APL data tier. It would take the information from there and dump it into the GUI. That's why you see the mortality list there. And that's actually, excuse me, for those of you that are following the code here, that would be this line here with the item source equals GQX. This is the area here that shows you the binding of those tables to the GUI. There's another example up here as far as the BN calc_click. This is the code here that would show you, again, this is C# code, but if any of you are familiar with it, this is the point here that basically tells you that when that calculation button is hit on the form, the C# event handler captures the input that the user put in, the age, the 50 that I had on the sample I showed you, and then goes with the desired mortality table that you picked. It links the 50 with the mortality table, and then gives you the result in the box on the bottom. Okay, and the last tab here, the GetQX APL tab, this is the Visual APL code. Okay, so this should be what is most recognizable to you. This using and these things up here, this is what defines what you need to use in this application. And if you remember when I talked about managed code, it would take from this list here of what you need to send along with the manifest. Actually, I could show you here also, if I bring out the Solution Explorer here, this is the project, the BSSI_CEOL. You see that there are 3 projects that are part of this solution. The first one here, the BSSI_CEOL, that's the GUI portion of this project. The second part here, the BSSI_GetQX, which is the tab that I'm on now, and I'm going to go over with you, that is the APL portion of the project. And the last part down here, the underscore setup, that is for the deployment. Here they chose to use the Microsoft the MSI installer, but that is that portion of the project, so that you can see within the Visual Studio project, within the Visual Studio solution, you could have any number of projects, and as I said before, some could be done in C#, some in APL. They all come together in the end. Okay, so this is the APL component, and there's some remarks here. We can look, as we go down, just, show the code. I'm not going to go through each line of the code here, but there's a couple of things that I wanted to point out. If you look at the first function up here, it uses the visual APL function, uses the C# signature, because it's going to be called from C#. Whereas down here, this one line over here, this private visual APL function, get tables values, uses the traditional syntax because it's only going to be used internally by the APL, so we can continue using that syntax. And basically, this is just meant to show that certain lines can be used with the APL, certain lines can use the C#. It's interchangeable. It's basically, what we wanted to show you here. This is the validations down here. And you can study this in more detail if you go on the forum and bring this in there yourself. I wanted to show you also the Cielo Explorer tab. This is that interactive session that I was showing you. So, if you just add in some numbers, it gives you the answer right there. And this, for APLers is nothing new, but for people that were using Visual Studio, this is a big addition. And what people are using this for, if you're more comfortable working in this type of environment than in the Visual Studio environment, you could create your application and do your work here and then copy it and paste it into the other areas where the code would be needed. As a matter of fact, when you look on the forum in this example, when they developed the code to link with the mortality tables from the Actuarial Society, they did it in Cielo Explorer so that you can see them actually, how you would play around with it and see how it works and test it and get the immediate mode answers. So, this is just kind of an overview of what a visual APL project would look like. Okay, so I just wanted to end with our contact information again, and if anyone has any questions, be happy to answer questions. I'll be here tomorrow. AJ Esculin will be here tomorrow, and he's going to be doing a more technical presentation on the visual APL. This was kind of to give you a little flavor for it. If you have any questions?
Questions? Okay. Thank you so much.